what brokerages are making out of this in terms of a macro impact. Let's start with the Bernstein. Overall, what they've said is that US has not really been nicer, and the tariff rates are significantly higher. However, they might not sustain in the second half of this financial year. Apart from that, they're expecting inflation to increase in the US markets, the demand to be depressed, and there could be a chance of US getting into a recession. They're saying that this is likely a starting point of several months of back-channel negotiations that could happen with different countries. Moving on, you have a JPMorgan who is saying that from the 5th of April, they will see the 10% tariff that will come into effect, but the major impact will come in from the 9th itself. The tariff hike could actually lead to a tax increase of almost $660 billion, or 2.2% of the GDP in the US. And the impact on inflation also will be substantial. And this will lead to substantial macroeconomic shock. And if the tariff hike sustains, it will likely push the US and global economy into recession. So 2 notes talking about recession. Citi has said that the country-specific tariff rates are higher again than expectations. And outstanding question is, what gets rolled back and how soon does this take place? Because the level of tariffs that have been announced would reset the global world order of trade. And they're expecting earnings to be cut in terms of 2025. The estimates is what we're talking about in the next few weeks. So that will be a downtick as well. Nuvama is saying that with all of these sweeping tariffs, Trump has actually gone ahead and escalated the global trade war. There will be growth concerns from here on that will dominate the inflation concerns. Fed's policy choices are going to get complicated as well. And the market valuations are not pricing in the earnings risk. The key questions are, what Nuvama is asking is, how other countries would respond to this tariff war, or will they negotiate or retaliate? How will the Fed respond? And thirdly, with regards to the financial stability risks, what will they look like? Because there could be high yield bond spreads and the emerging market forex rather than the dollar index. So these are a few questions that Nuvama has been asking as well. That's the macro picture. Anushi, how are you looking at it in terms of the India impact?
Right. So now that we are looking at the bigger picture remains on what are the implications on India that we are looking at. Firstly, let's get in the brokerage views on what Bernstein has to say. It's a mixed view that we are looking at in terms of what the Bernstein is saying, that they believe India will largely navigate through these tariff concerns which are there, and India more likely to engage in negotiations rather than escalating trade war is something that we should be watching out for. While immediately we can see some kind of pressure in terms of where the Indian markets are concerned, it's the second half where they're more optimistic on recovery being on cards. That is something that we should be seeing. Now, what Nuvama has to say, they have a more bearish approach as compared to what Nuvama is, compared to what Bernstein is saying. Now, they will see that direct and indirect impacts on sectors are likely on sectors like machinery, electronics, textile garments as such is huge. Direct impact, while that seems limited, the indirect impact is something that is substantial for a country like India. That is what we are seeing. This indirect impact could lead to a global slowdown. As Hiril pointed out, there are higher chances of recession now on the card. So because of this weaker global demand overall, there is huge risk of EPS, earnings cut risk that remain large for the company. Lastly, coming to what Prabhudas Lidadhar had to say, India is one of the least tariff Asian exporter. That is what we are looking at, given the size of tariffs that other Asian countries have been imposed on. India is in a relatively better position is something that we are seeing. So it is likely to position itself as a China +1 hub for US-bound protection, which is there, and gains a relative edge as the lowest tariff major Asian exporter that is there. Within Asia now, India holds the most favorable tariff position, which is a clear strategic upgrade that we are looking at. So this is overall the views in terms of where the Indian implications are concerned. But a lot of sectors are buzzing today, and a lot of them have been upgraded or downgraded. We have Varsha joining us to give us a breakdown on the sectors which are in focus as well.
Right. Thank you, Anushi, for that. So clearly, if I were to talk about Bernstein, let's start with that. What are they saying is they have upgraded healthcare due to the limited impact, but they've downgraded IT to equal weight given the US recession risk that they are seeing. That's what Bernstein has to say. But speaking about Nuvama, let's see what Nuvama has to say. They are overweight when it comes to private banks, insurance, consumer and telecom, but they're underweight when it comes to, industrials, and then you have metals, PSUs, and they've recently downgraded IT to underweight due to high valuations that the sector has seen. While let's see what Prabhudas Leeladhar has to say about this. So, they are actually, they've given out a list of sectors, about their views. So starting with textile and apparel. So tariff edge actually create an opening for India in US market according to Prabhudas Leeladhar, and Indian exporters have this competitive advantage over Bangladesh, Vietnam and Thailand as per PL. Now speaking about the footwear segment, let's see what they're saying. Tariff shock is actually an opening space when it comes to India according to Prabhudas Leeladhar, and also the firms like Nike will actually may look to shift sourcing to India, what the brokerage is expecting. While in light manufacturing, let's see what are they expecting. So tariffs on rivals will open door for India when it comes to toys, textiles and leather, and also India could emerge as a preferred alternative across several light manufacturing segments that the brokerage is betting on. While on automobiles and auto parts, if you see, they see limited direct impact on automobiles and auto parts, while it actually levels the playing field, could preserve India's competitiveness in some segments according to brokerage. On electronics, let's see what they're saying. So on electronics, they are basically, so the iPhone-led surged 26% tariff is a hit, but India still is favored over China according to brokerage firm. And on machinery exports, basically, so this is under pressure, and Indian exporters now face a steep cost disadvantage versus domestic supplier as per Prabhudas Leeladhar. On chemicals, they have actually mixed outlook as tariff hits, but India may gain versus China in in key niches. And lastly, on gems and jewelry, they are seeing high risk sector as 26% tariff threatens India's $10 billion industry.
Right. So that's with regards to what brokerages are making out of an impact in terms of sectors.